What's going on? My name is NFT Flenny, and today is the first episode of a brand new series I'll be doing called Flennys Favorites. In this series, I'll be highlighting one collectible each episode that is, of course, one of my favorites, and it'll usually be a more high-end collectible, but it doesn't have to be. My goal for this series is to touch on why I like the collectible, why I think the price and the value will go up, and lastly, what I did to obtain the collectible. For this first episode, I wanted to highlight Carmine Infantino's Robin. So this collectible has a special place in my heart because it's the first big purchase that I've made on Veve. So we're getting straight into it. First things first, let's talk about why I like this collectible. So I had a good amount of gems saved up, and I was trying to decide which high-end collectible I wanted to get my hands on. I could only make one purchase because it would use all my gems, so I had to choose wisely, and here's some of the criteria that I used to break it down. One thing that I'm always looking for when I'm investing in Veve collectibles, especially for the long term, is I'm looking for name recognition, looking for branding, a popular brand, a popular license, and I'm looking for rarity. And then lastly, it's a nice touch, but not necessary, is just how the collectible looks in general. During this process, I was debating between Robin, Big Barda, and maybe a third, like maybe the Professor or someone like that, but mainly between Big Barda and Robin. And ultimately, what swayed me more toward Robin was that he's just more of a recognizable character. Like personally, I'd never heard of Big Barda until I got on Veve, and I'm sure a lot of people, unless you're really into comics or DC or that kind of thing, most people will not know Big Barda, but the vast majority of people are going to know Robin. That's what put him more over the top for me, was just that name recognition and that everyone pretty much in the whole world knows who Robin is. And then of course, he's part of DC and he's Batman's right-hand man, and Batman is already such a popular character, and Batman and Robin, they go hand in hand. You've heard those names paired together for your whole life. There have been countless movies, shows, comic books about these guys. That's something that I really liked when making my final decision. The next thing that I was looking for is rarity. And let me tell you, this guy is pretty rare. He's not as rare as maybe the Professor or as Big Barda, but for such a popular character, let alone a first appearance, there's only 1,750 editions of him. So less than 2,000, and he's from season 2 of Batman Black and White. So he is really early on in the Batman Black and White series, and also of just Veve's history. One other thing that I don't normally look for regularly, but what was a cherry on top for this collectible, was the artist who made him. Carmine Infantino is the artist behind this collectible, and he is a world famous Batman and Robin comic book artist. When you think of Batman and Robin, you're probably picturing in your head the art style that was created and drawn by him. Here's some background on legendary comic book artist Carmine Infantino. He was an American comics artist and editor, primarily for DC Comics, during the late 1950s and early 1960s period known as the Silver Age of comic books. Among his character creations are the Silver Age version of DC super speedster The Flash, among others, and he was inducted into the Comics Will Eisner Award Hall of Fame in the year 2000. So he has a great track record, great resume, and he is enshrined forever in the Comic Hall of Fame. So that little introduction from his Wikipedia article mentioned that he was an artist during the Silver Age of comic books, and so I looked into that a little bit and found some interesting info. This comic book cover that you're seeing right now, Showcase number 4, released in October 1956, is generally considered to be the start of the Silver Age of comic books, and the cover art was by Carmine Infantino and Joe Kubert. And lastly, as for the style / looks of the collectible, I'm not gonna lie and say that it's my favorite looking one or it's the best looking one, but I do think there is something to say for the historical significance, and how he looks really exemplifies the art style of the time and really shows off Carmine's style and how he depicted Robin, which I think is really cool and kind of gives that historical aspect to it and more of a classic feel. Next, we're on to why I think the price / value of this collectible will go up. Now there's going to be a lot of overlap in why I like it and why I think it'll go up, because I did initially get into this app as an investor, but there's definitely been a collecting side of me that has come out, and I'm not only in it for investing nowadays, but I am looking for that, and I am considering those things for when I want to spend a lot of money on a collectible. I don't want it to drop off. I don't want to be holding worthless collectibles at the end of the day. I still, want to have a good chance to make money, make profit off these assets that I'm holding and that I'm investing in. With that being said, Why I think the price of this will go up, first and foremost, is its rarity. It's one of the most rare collectibles on Veve. As we've been seeing, the edition numbers of ultra rares have been going up. We don't see too many of them being the old 1700 that we see more in season 1. Plus, with the amount of new users that Veve's been seeing and the influx of users that we expect to see within the next years, we can deduce that Veve will be releasing more edition numbers regardless of the status. So ultra rares, say 2 years from now, maybe the common amount for an ultra rare is 5,000 editions. And for a common, maybe it's normal to have 20,000 editions. I don't think that edition numbers will be going down at all. I think those days are past. In the grand scheme of things, 1700 is still a rare collectible on the app, but I think in the future it'll be even more amplified. To go along with that, I really believe in first appearances. I think that those go such a long way because there will only ever be one time that a first appearance can be released. You can't go back and redo a first appearance or anything like that. So when a first appearance comes out, that is set in stone. That can never be taken from it. I think that's really valuable. And I think when the big collectors start coming in, they'll be looking for the first appearance, the season 1, the first of its kind in whatever sense that might be. And I think with how many collectibles will eventually be dropped, the market will be diluted, and really the top of the top, the rarest of the rare, are what's going to stand above the rest and really stand out and hold and gain value. That brings me to my last point, which is how I was able to obtain this collectible. Elon made his tweet about Bitcoin, and the cryptocurrency market did a little mini crash, whatever you want to call it. And that also drove down the price of NFTs and collectibles. During that time, I wanted to capitalize on the opportunity of collectibles that I saw going for $1.5, $2,000, maybe even more, now selling for less than $1,000. But I'd already spent a lot of my money, like a lot of us probably have, on drops the whole months prior. So I didn't have much capital to really go out and drop a lot of money on something. So I had to sell some collectibles, which was tough because, like I said, prices were already low. So I was selling collectibles that I just saw go for higher. But I knew it was for a good cause. I knew it was for a greater good. And so I was selling these collectibles knowing that I'd be getting a much better and much more sought after collectible in return. Basically what I did was I sold every collectible that I didn't think had good branding or wasn't a really popular character. Collectibles that didn't go toward me completing sets, because I'm trying to complete those in preparation for the Master Collector program. Sets that I was gonna never be able to complete. For example, one of the Ghostbuster ones with the gold Moogly in it. I'm not gonna be spending that much money on a Ghostbusters logo, so I know I'm not gonna finish that set. So stuff like that. I would sell things that I didn't think would have long-term value or didn't have as much of a chance to have as good a long-term value, and things that weren't contributing to my sets. At the end of the day, when I was able to sell all those things, I had about 800 gems, and the lowest Robin on the market around that time was about 700 gems. But for me, I like to try to get sub 1000s if I can, especially because a trend that we've been seeing on Veve is that the longer a collectible is on the market, the rarer and rarer it is to get a low mint number, particularly sub 1000, the harder it is to get it for a reasonable price. For example, look at the Todd McFarlane Batmans. I want you to go on there. If you can see a sub 1000 for anywhere near the floor price, you either got really lucky or I'm wrong. But that's a perfect example. That's also the first collectible ever on Veve, so it's been there the longest. The low mint numbers are really hard to get. Since we're in so early, I like to try to get low mint numbers while I think it's still available, because I think in the future they'll be much harder to get, especially when the big collectors and big fans start coming in. So I paid about 100 gems extra, paid 800 gems, and got my sub 1000 Carmine Infantino ultra rare Robin, and I couldn't have been happier about it, and I still feel really good about it. Well guys, that about wraps up episode 1 of Flennys Favorites. Can't wait to do more of these. Can't wait to show you guys more of my collection. I got so many ideas, so many things to show you guys. Stay tuned. As always, this has been NFT Flenny. I'll see you guys next time.